Hi, I'm Jeff Richards and welcome to Japan Today Spotlight. Elon Musk once famously tweeted about Japan, at the risk of stating the obvious, unless something changes to cause the birth rate to exceed the death rate, Japan will eventually cease to exist. This would be a great loss for the world. That was back in 2022. As of January 1st, 2025, Japan's population, including foreign residents, stood at 124,330,690. That's down about 554,000 from the previous year. It's the 16th straight year of decline and the biggest drop since records began in 1968. The sharpest effects are in rural Japan. Young people keep leaving for the cities while older residents stay behind. Towns are shrinking. Farmland lies unused and local shops are closing one after the other. Akita and Aomori prefectures in northeastern Japan, they saw the steepest declines, down 1.91% and 1.72% respectively. Successive governments have spent 2 decades trying to reverse this trend. None of them have succeeded. In this week's Japan Today Spotlight, we look at why Japan's countryside is emptying out, what's driving that exodus, and whether anything can or will bring people back. Japan's countryside is facing the perfect storm: an aging population, a declining birth rate, idle land, and empty houses. Most of the government's ideas to combat this have gone nowhere. In 2023, the government of then Prime Minister Fumio Kishida had to shelve a plan to give cash incentives to women to relocate to these rural areas after marriage. The goal was to revitalize small towns, but it sparked backlash online. The proposal would have expanded an existing program that already offered up to 600,000 yen, almost $4,000 per person for those moving out of the Tokyo metropolitan area. The new version aimed to add an extra incentive for those women relocating to rural areas after marriage, essentially a bonus payment for women only. As soon as the media reported the idea, criticism exploded. The basic gist: does the government think money can buy women? The government said the plan was meant to support marriage and regional revitalization. Many saw it as sexist and outdated. Officials had also hoped to build on a pandemic trend when remote work made rural living more appealing. That ended quickly. By 2023 and 2024, migration back to Tokyo accelerated again. Last year, the government of Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba proposed a so-called Furusato Connection Registry. This was a new system to help people stay connected to their hometown. The goal was to sign up 10 million users over the next decade through a smartphone app. Local governments would issue digital certificates recognizing registrants as supporters or honorary members of rural towns. The idea was to encourage emotional and financial ties, but there were no real incentives or benefits attached to it. It never got off the ground. Critics said it sounded like another meaningless digital plan with no clear impact on real communities. The question now is how new Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi will tackle this depopulation crisis. Will her administration bring new ideas to the table, or will it just repeat old ones that haven't worked? There are many reasons why young people are leaving rural Japan for the big cities: better education and better jobs. That part isn't unique to Japan. But in Japan, another pattern stands out quite starkly, more women than men are leaving. A white paper released in June by the Cabinet Office's Gender Equality Bureau found that 27% of young women want to leave their hometowns, compared to only 15% of the young men. The top reasons? Fewer higher education options and a lack of desired jobs and limited career prospects. Women also said they want to escape interference from parents and older people who pressure them to marry and stay. Even when they go back to visit, the same question keeps coming up. When are you going to get married? A separate study, one by the National Institute of Population and Social Security Research, found that 744 municipalities, that's about 43% of the total, are at risk of disappearing. In those towns, the number of women of childbearing age is expected to drop by half by 2050. There's also a housing surplus. The Land Ministry says Japan now has around 9.38 million vacant homes, known as Akita. Most of these are in rural regions. We're already seeing the consequences. Farmland left idle draws wildlife closer to towns. Bears, in particular, are venturing further into human areas in search of food. Can love save the countryside? Local governments aren't waiting for national policy. Many are launching their own projects to bring people together, literally. A Kyodo News survey found that more than half of all local governments in Japan have organized matchmaking or marriage seminars for single men and women. Around 376,000 people have taken part in these events and related programs nationwide. This has resulted in over 6,000 couples getting married. Of Japan's 1,741 municipalities, 932, about 53%, said they run these programs on their own. Some local governments say the events have helped boost their local economies. Others, though, say participation remains low and the impact small. Still, marriage alone won't solve Japan's rural crisis. One idea that most politicians avoid talking about is migration, especially bringing more foreign residents to rural areas. The total number of foreign residents in Japan keeps rising. As of 2025, that figure reached a record 3.68 million. By prefecture, Hokkaido saw the largest increase at nearly 20%. About 86% of foreign residents are of working age, and many fill jobs in sectors suffering severe labor shortages: agriculture, construction, and elder care. But for all of the economic benefits, immigration remains a sensitive subject. Right-wing political groups often stoke fears about crime or cultural erosion, even though data show otherwise. And while some towns have quietly welcomed newcomers, most have not. Few towns are ready to actively invite large numbers of foreign residents, at least not yet. Until Japan normalizes immigration as part of its survival strategy, demographic decline will continue to outpace reform. Not everyone is giving up on the countryside. Some people are moving back, or they're moving in for the first time. During the pandemic, remote work briefly made rural life more appealing. That shift didn't last, but it did prove something important. Given the right conditions, people will choose quality of life over city convenience. The Gender Equality White Paper that I mentioned earlier found that many people living in Tokyo still feel attached to their home region. And women, especially, said they'd consider returning, but only if conditions improve. The report suggested several ways to make that happen. Eliminate deep-rooted gender role stereotypes that persist in rural areas. Create communities where people can thrive regardless of gender. Support women's entrepreneurship and encourage female leadership. Beyond policy, local governments and tourism boards are trying some new approaches. In Tochigi Prefecture, along the banks of the Kinugawa River, a row of crumbling hotels stands as a reminder of the bubble economy. Once a booming hot spring resort, it now attracts visitors for a very different reason: haikyo, or ruin tourism. For some locals, these decaying old buildings have become an unlikely lifeline. In other regions, train stations abandoned after service cuts are being repurposed as community markets for local produce, crafts, and food. These spaces draw tourists and help artisans and growers keep money circulating locally. Another incentive is cost. A large family home in the countryside often costs far less than a small apartment in Tokyo or Osaka. Some small towns, like Kamikatsu in Tokushima or Shimokawa in Hokkaido, have even drawn international attention for their sustainability and community-driven initiatives. These are rare success stories, but they show what's possible when people take ownership of their future. Nobody wants to see Japan's rural traditions fade away. From rice farming to sake brewing to the family businesses that have defined these regions for centuries. Whether those traditions survive will depend on jobs, flexible working styles, and affordable childcare. The real keys to Japan's demographic issue. The numbers alone can feel abstract. Millions gone, thousands of towns fading. But every empty school and boarded up shop tells a story. Depopulation isn't just about demographics. It's about identity. What kind of country does Japan want to be in the next 50 years? A nation centered around its megacities? Or one that still values the villages, crafts, and ways of life that built it? There are no simple answers, but saving the countryside will mean rethinking how Japan lives, not just where. Thanks for watching Japan Today Spotlight. And from the Japan Today newsroom here in Tokyo, I'm Jeff Richards. See you next time.